Welcome back, nieces and nephews, to GY Percentage for Just Everything with Auntie Pookie podcast. I'm your host, Sydney, or as many people know me as Auntie Pookie. Happy day 5 of Black History Month. Woo woo. And thanks for tuning in to this educational month. On today's episode, we're going to talk about Harriet Tubman, who is also known as the Moses of her people. And funny story, when I did a beauty pageant, mind you, I'm not girly at all. I'm such a tomboy, but I tried to step out of my comfort zone. And I can't remember the question. I think it was a Black influential woman or something who I admired. I can't even tell you. And I said, that's a good question. Harriet Tubman. Because she freed the slaves and helped people get to where they are today. And I think that it wasn't a bad answer. I was just freaking out because public speaking was not my thing back then. Now I'm kind of more able to speak in front of people, but yeah, that's another thing for another day. But yeah, a few people know about the Harriet Tubman moment. And shout out to my best friend who texted me after, and we could laugh about this for the rest of our lives. So Miss Harriet Tubman, her birth is unknown, but the researchers think that she was born between 1820 and 1822 in Maryland. And she was born to Harriet Green and Benjamin Ross. Her original name was Amarita Rose, and I hope I'm saying that right. She was born one of 8 siblings. Back in the day, having a lot of kids was not like abnormal. My grandma had 10 or 11 kids, and my great grandma, she had 10 or 11 kids, and it was just like, it wasn't abnormal. Nowadays, it's so hard to even have one kid because society is, I'm not gonna say society, the world is expensive. Okay. Yeah, and daycare is like $8 million. Anywho, back on track. At age 5, Harriet was rented as a domestic servant. And I was like reading that, I was like, rented? Like, dang, like a bill. Ridiculous. Anyways, but she wasn't like worried about her job because she still literally at a young age had a helping mindset and knew right from wrong. She was very, very intelligent. Around age 12, sadly, abuse started happening from her master. She intervened when her master was beating an enslaved man who had tried to escape. And she was hit with a 2-pound weight in her head. That is crazy to me. And so she ended up having headaches and narcolepsy. I can just say I'm blessed, and I want to thank God that I was born in the time I am now, because I would have been dead back in these days. I would have been dead. I am such an advocate for people. I don't care if you're black, white, green, orange, purple, or yellow. Like, I am such an advocate for people. I'd be dead back in these days. But anyways, back on track again. All right. As she got older, she ended up marrying a black man who was free. His name was John Tubman in 1844. And sadly, back then, slaves weren't allowed to marry, but she did her own thing anyways. And that's when she changed her name and became Harriet Tubman. So with Harriet's story, they didn't have a lot of age history for her besides the age 5 and 12. So I'm not really sure when she started to create her fantastic journey for the Underground Railroad. And shockingly enough, and I'm not sure if anyone knows this, she didn't actually create the Underground Railroad. It was actually established in the late 18th century by black and white abolitionists. Even though she didn't create it, of course we know she definitely benefited from it. Her and her brothers escaped from there. And from what I was reading, I am assuming that she knew that it was a successful path to get people free. And that's what ignited her to start her movement of, helping free other slaves. And so during this time, her husband refused to join the movement. And to me, it sounded like, he might have been terrified, which I can only imagine. You are getting so chastised just because of the color of your skin, and you're trying to free people so that they can live their lives. And he actually ended up leaving Harriet, and he ended up marrying someone else. Harriet was still doing her thing. She traveled back and forth so many times to the South to save people. And eventually she became wanted. So her master put out a hit for her for $40,000, which is probably worth $1 million or more today. And they wanted her dead. He wasn't trying to bring her back alive because he would probably kill her anyways when he delivered the money to whoever found her. The amazing thing is she never got caught, and she never lost anyone she was trying to free. Everybody literally was safe with her. She learned her way around so many places. She knew so much info that made her important to the Union military commander in the Civil War. Now that is phenomenal. And it's phenomenal that they didn't even turn her in. You know what I'm saying? Because $40,000 is a lot of money back then. And they were like, nah, man, we need you, girl. She was actually a Union spy and scout. I think that's really dope. She helped people find shelter and jobs and food. And she was a nurse as well. She gave herbal remedies to black and white soldiers who were dying from infection and disease. After the war, she raised money to aid freedmen. And she joined 2 other women who were named Elizabeth Stanton and Susan B. Anthony for the women's suffrage, aging parents, and she worked with Sarah Bradford on her autobiography. She ended up marrying a Union soldier named Nelson Davis, and they adopted a daughter. And she established the Harriet Tubman Home for the Aged on land near her home. So she basically took care of elderly people, which is really amazing. She did a lot of stuff. And then she actually passed away in 1913, and they didn't have the exact month or day either. In closing, I wish I would have knew a little more research when I did this pageant. Because I would have straight up been like, let me tell y'all what she did, okay? But, yeah, Harriet Tubman, she did a lot. And, of course, like I said, I give props to everybody that I'm going to talk about this whole month. But I think it is phenomenal what she did. And then she learned so much. And the crazy thing is, back in the day, blacks, I'm going to say coloreds, were not allowed to learn things or read and write. And their brain was just like, nah, man, we are going to get good at this, and this. And they killed it. And she killed it. She knew so much to even become a spy. That just was really intriguing to me when I read that. So, yeah, shout out to womenshistory.org again for the great research that I found. And thanks for tuning in.